Photoshop Advanced Skin Retouching and Smooth Skin Quick Action. This photo has some severe skin issues. In fact, it has really changed the color of her skin. I am in the photography workspace in the latest version of Photoshop. I'm going to make a copy of this before I start, so I'll have a before and after. I also think that's just good so you have a reference. Control J will make a copy of what you're working on, and then I always just use this background layer as my reference. So on this layer, we of course can zoom in and out using Alt, scroll your mouse, and you can see that this girl has severe acne. In fact, many of the tools that we've learned in the last lecture and in my last few videos, we could use any of these, but we don't have a lot of clean skin. So zoom in where you can see, and the two main tools we would use for something like this would be the healing brush tool and the spot healing tool. Remember, the difference between these two tools is, let's try the spot healing brush tool. You're going to get a little circle on your screen, and that is the brush size. You can make that bigger and smaller using the bracket keys, or you can change it right here with the size. So you need to make it just a little bit bigger than whatever the blemish that you're trying to fix, and you literally just click and then let go. What happens is Photoshop has sampled from all around that little circle. The problem with this is all of the skin around these blemishes is also blemished. So it doesn't have a good place to sample from that is all around that circle. If you use the healing brush tool, it's not going to sample from around the circle. It's going to sample from wherever you tell it to. So you just say, here's a kind of clean area of skin. I'm going to say Alt and click right there to tell it that's where I want you to sample from. Now when I go back, you can see there's a little plus sign right there. That's where it is sampling from. That works pretty well for this, but the problem with that is that skin down there is not the same as the skin up here, so it's going to cause problems. Remember, wherever that little X is at the bottom is where it's sampling. In fact, if I accidentally sampled, say, here in her hair, you can see that now it is sampling from her hair. It's actually adding her sample back in there. So that's not going to work. Let's kind of back up, Control Z. What I would do is just go through here and very simply fix anything with either one of these tools. Don't worry about making it perfect. Just get it basically some of the bigger problems fixed. Make sure to not have too big of a brush. If you try to have a big brush and do it all at one time, you're going to see. You can see where it ends. So you don't want to have too big of a brush. You also want to make sure that you don't have a completely soft brush, say somewhere between 70 and 90%, so that it's a little bit soft, a little bit hard. And then make it just a little bit bigger than whatever the blemish is, and you'll get a better result. So we're just going to go through and fix any of the major problems. Now you don't have to get this perfect, but if we turn this on and off, you can see it is definitely a lot better than it was. We're now going to try some of the AI tools that Adobe has added. There's a couple of places you can get to this. I like to go to my Properties panel, and if you can't find your Properties panel, just go to Windows, Property. When you're in the Properties panel, there's these quick actions that appear, and Adobe kind of guesses what you might want to do. We're going to click View More, and it's going to pop up the other quick actions that it has available, and they are adding to these all the time. Some of them I like, some of them I think are not ready for prime time. But they have one called Smooth Skin. Now, it would not be able to smooth the skin from where we started. It was just too bad. But let's go ahead and click on it and see what happens. It's going to take a second to load it. One of the things you'll notice that it does is it made it into a smart layer, which means that we can go back and change this neural filter later. So you can kind of see it has already done a little bit of a job for us. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And let's look at what it looks like without it. So just turn off my smart filter. You can see that it has blurred it. I want to try even more than that. So because this is a smart filter, we can open it up again. So just double click on the word neural filters, and it's going to open up the dialog. And normally it kind of puts it back to normal because it thinks you're going to do it, and that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and really, really blur this. And you can see the before and after by clicking this right here. Before, after. So go ahead and blur it as much as you think you need. I'm just going to go ahead and go the full amount that I can and say, okay. And if we look before and after, you can see it's definitely blurred her skin and softened it. But one of the problems with this is it kind of softened up her eyes and various things, so it makes it look like it's out of focus. Thankfully, we do have a mask right here. So I'm going to click on the mask, and remember, white to reveal, black to conceal. So we're going to go get a brush and make sure we're on black. We're going to make sure we have a soft brush, so maybe 30%. And I'm going to bring the opacity down so that we're just adding it back little by little. So maybe 20% opacity. And I'm going to add back, remember your bracket keys. I'm just going to add back some of the sharpness. You can see over here, it's adding that little black back. That's taking away some of the softness from right there so that it looks like it's in focus. I also find that if you make sure the nostril is in focus, the whole nose will look like it's in focus. So I'm just adding back a little bit of clarity and focus so that it doesn't look completely blurred. Before, after. Now, the last problem that I see with this is it has changed her entire skin tone to be red. So I'm going to add an adjustment layer, hue saturation, and I'm going to go to the reds and pull the saturation of the reds down. Now, if we go too far, you can see it just looks black and white. So you don't want to go too far. I'm taking about -10, and then I'm going to go to the magenta, and I'm going to take down some of that. Now, one of the things that's happening here is I went ahead and pushed it too far. You can see she's looking kind of washed out. So first thing I want to do is add a little bit of yellow back in. I'm going to up the saturation, add a little bit of cyan back in. And I'm just looking at her skin tone. I think we've pushed it too far on the magenta. Let's add a little bit of magenta back. Once you get that the way you like, don't worry about anything except for her skin tone. What has happened is her hair is losing the red. It needed the red. So we're going to go back like we did a minute ago, and I'm going to erase what we have just done using our mask. So black, white to reveal, black to conceal. Just going to add back the red to her hair. You can notice it's almost looking like she has gray hair here. We're just going to bring some of the vibrance back to her hair. And then very carefully, I'm going to add back a little bit of lip color. You want to be very, very gentle on this or it'll look like she's wearing crazy makeup. Just a little bit of lip color back in. And maybe make sure it hasn't changed her eye color. So now we have before with the neural filter with hue and saturation. Okay, now let's move on to my next example. This is the perfect use of the smooth skin filter. Go ahead and zoom in and you can see that he just has some texture in his skin and some dots and things. Not that bad. He doesn't have, his skin is pretty good, but we want to make him look a little bit nicer. This is the perfect use for that neural filter. So let's make a copy. So we have before and after. Control J. Let me show you where else you can find the quick actions. You can find them right here in quick actions. Just click view more. You can also go up to filter and go to the neural filters, or you can actually go to the help file and go to Photoshop help and they'll all pop up right there. So I'll just do it here, filter, neural filters. Turn on smooth skin. Let's go ahead and blur that out. And of course, right here, before, after, before, after. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. We don't want him to look like a mannequin. Now, before you hit OK, you can choose what you want it to do. Do you want to add it to a new layer with a mask, a smart filter? I tend to like the smart filter. That's the way we did it last time because you can come back and adjust it. But you can look at those and see which one you like the best. I'm going to hit OK. And you can see here it is, before, after. And of course, we can go back with our mask and kind of bring back some of the details to his eyes. Make sure his beard did not get too softened because that would not make sense. Some of the hair that he has on his face. So that looks pretty good. Let's zoom out and before, after. This type of photo is the perfect choice for that skin smoothing. So I do think the neural filters are getting better and better. That's the easy way to soften skin in Photoshop.